Good morning and welcome to another edition of Around Windsor. Earlier today, we filmed a segment with Representative Elizabeth Burrows and two members of our select board, Jeffrey Johnson and Emma Caffrey, and we focused on how to use the legislative website and how to track a bill from its introduction to either becoming a law or to be rejected. So the video is about 45 minutes long, and I would suggest reviewing it is a good idea, but then bookmark it. And if you're interested in following the legislature or specific either bills or topics of interest, keep this as a reference. And as you go back and start trying to track a bill, there's a lot of information in this that you will find useful. It's a complicated website, but it's complicated because there's so much information. You can find all of your legislators there. You can find all the bills. You can find all the topics. You can find all of the support information that was used in the discussion and deliberation on the various bills. You can find all of the testimony from the various people. So there's just a lot there. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it useful, but I do encourage you to use this more as a reference tool than just 45 minutes of viewing a video. So with that, we'll move on to the actual recording. Thanks. So good day. Today I have with us our state representative, Elizabeth Burrows, as well as two members of our select board, Chair Jeffrey Johnson and Emma Caffrey. And the purpose of our presentation today is to give you an idea of how you can follow legislation through the process of going from a bill into a law, as well as some of the outlines of how that happens. What are those steps? It can be a complicated process for the whole thing, but there's some very basic concepts that if you understand that, you'll be able to start navigating your way around if you're looking to follow a bill through the process in the next legislative session. We'll also touch on how you can contact your legislature members, both in the House and Senate. Again, a pretty simple process, but Representative Burrows will walk us through those points. So with that, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And the next phase in all of this high-tech thing we're going to do here is we'll ask Representative Burrows to begin her presentation, share her screen, and we'll take it from there.
All right. Okay, I'm going to start here. Can you see that all right?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the state website, vermont.gov. And the first thing I want to emphasize is that everything is here. As legislators, this is where we find everything. So ostensibly, you should be able to find everything here too. There is so much on here, and it's very, it can be very confusing. But I just wanted to walk through some of the features on here because, just very briefly, because I think some questions have come up that when I've gotten questions, this is where I've gone to find answers. So for example, this is the Living in Vermont tab. It has things about, when you first come onto this page, it has very general stuff. But if you go down here to view more about living in Vermont, it has things on housing, social assistance, all of the ways to find help are here. Tax resources, how to file a complaint, public utilities, and all that jazz. Here, under work, likewise, there's some very basic things about how to start a business. But there's also job resources, resources for working people with a disability. These are all how to get a business contract. These are all on here. There's Exploring Vermont. This is all fun and games. Here's where all of the statewide events are, fairs and field days. You can learn about the history of the State House. Further down here, here's some how to find businesses, how to find out about towns. Let's see. This page, Learn, is really all about education. And online services is just a tab for all of the forms that you can fill out online. And then we get to government. So when I log on to this website, I go straight to government. And I, of course, go to Vermont legislature, but you can find your statewide officials, all of the agencies. In fact, I believe, oops, come on. At the very bottom, there is a directory of, where is it? State employee directory. If you want to find a particular state employee, of which there are thousands because it's the biggest employer in our entire state, here's where that is. The other thing to know about this website is that every single time you click on a link, it opens up a new page. So that can be really confusing if you're trying to, I find it very confusing because you wind up having 100 tabs if you're researching a particular subject. So now I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see, how do I do this? Stop sharing this. And present something else. And I'm going to go to this little PowerPoint presentation. And so here, I just wanted to give a very brief outline of bills. And I'm not going to go through all of these different bullet points, but I wrote down all I could think of ways a bill could die. Inside of this list of 12 or 13 ways, there's also another 5 or 10 ways. For example, it could get taken up by the committee. It could die in the committee. It could get taken up by the committee, but it has money attached to it. If it has money attached to it, it then goes to the Appropriations Committee, where it can die if it's not attached to the budget bill. It could be ordered to let lie, which is a thing that I have seen happen only once. But that is when a kind of fatal flaw is reported out on the House floor or on the floor. People can, or the assembly can vote to just drop the subject. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all of these because if you're watching this, you can stop at this point. But just to let you know that there are so many ways that a bill can die before it gets to the governor's desk. These are just in one body. These are, in the House or in the Senate. Then it goes to the other side, the other body, if it gets to the other body, and it has the same possibilities to die there. And that all makes sense because we're talking about laws. We're not talking about policy. So it should have a lot of ways to die.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
How many bills would you say on average are introduced in a year, and how many make it to the governor's desk? I don't know if there's a way to give an idea of those numbers, but I'm just wondering, do you understand?
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Last year, or the last biennium, unfortunately, because we had a supermajority, there were a lot of, I think there were twice as many bills as there normally are, which is bad because it puts pressure on the committee to take up more bills, and then we don't necessarily do the same job that we would if there wasn't a supermajority. So last year, a lot of people felt that they could get things pushed through that they wouldn't normally get pushed through. And so I think there were something like 2,000 bills It was a record year for bills. Usually there's about 800, somewhere in that range. And those get divided into committees. They don't get divided evenly. They're by subject matter. So on my committee, General and Housing, a lot of bills obviously went to our committee because everybody's concerned about housing. Not so many in the Agriculture Committee, which is how they wound up taking up the state mushroom designation bill last year. Okay, does that answer your question? How many get to
Well,
the
that-
governor's How many get to the
Yeah.
governor's desk? It really varies. I think there were maybe like 100. But it depends. It just depends. Okay, this is just to give you an idea of what my actual time frame is for bills. If you were to come, Jeffrey, if you had an idea about a bill that pertained to Windsor, and it was a simple idea that didn't have to be fleshed out, I can submit what's called a short form bill at almost any point in the session. That's like an amendment to the town charter. It's a couple of lines long. It can be changed into an amendment to another bill. It can it has a lot of ways that it can squeak through. But for long form bills, which are regular bills, we definitely have a timeline, and I want everybody to be aware of exactly what the timeline is. So we start on election day. I have been doing research on bills because I'm an incumbent. I've been doing research on bills for a while now. But so as you can see, we do the research. Then we are allowed to legislative council is the group of lawyers that are assigned to the legislature, and they're the ones who draft the bills. So we are allowed to ask legislative council starting around December to actually draft the bills. Then we sort of go back and forth. Here, end of submissions, that is by House rule, that is the last day that long form bills, regular bills, can be submitted. After a legislator kind of goes back and forth with legislative council, they obtain signatures. It depends on it. You can do that electronically now, or you can do it in person with a form that somebody actually signs. Depending on the bill, you might want to get as many signatures from as many parties as possible. Or you might not want to bother with getting additional signatures. But the more it depends on what your time frame is. If you need to get something through quickly, you might not get as many signatures. If you want it to have broad support, then you're going to take it around to as many people as you can for their signature. We have a deadline. This February 17th, the standard form bill is the long form bill. That is the last day that we can submit a bill with signatures on it. Once we submit it with signatures, it goes to the clerk's office, and then it appears on the calendar, which is the record of what's been submitted and the process. And I'll show you all of that for first reading, where it gets assigned to a committee. And then we have, in the House of Representatives, we have two other deadlines. One is for policy bills. They all have to get taken up or processed before town meeting day week. It's usually the week before or the week after town meeting day week, because then they have to cross over to the other body to be able to have enough time to get through the Senate, or else they die. So we have that deadline. The Senate does not have that deadline. It's just our rules dictate that we do have that. That's for policy bills. Money bills have a different set of deadlines, usually the week after town meeting day week. Let's see. There's town meeting day. And then when it gets to the governor's desk, by statute, it cannot be on his desk for more than 5 days. And then the law going into effect, it just depends on what's indicated on the bill. Are there any questions about this?
Yes. I just wanted to kind of ask if you're going to show us how to actually check on the status of the bills as they go through this process. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, and then I have a couple of resources here. The first one is a video called "The People's Law School: Understanding State Government," and you can actually just Google this, the People's Law School, and it's a really great series of videos on how things actually work, because it's specific to Vermont state government. So it also talks about the fact that our state is what's called a Dillon's rule state, which means that we retain local control, and explains all of that stuff. So it's really useful if you're nerdy like me. This link right here to the clerk of the house, we have a really excellent clerk of the house, and she has put up all kinds of links about how a bill actually becomes a law and what the processes are. And she even has the history of legislators going all the way back, or speakers of the house going all the way back. It's a really great reference site. And then, of course, this, which is and this is Vermont statutes. This is where our laws are kept updated to as recent as possible. I just looked at it last night, and it said that it was going to be updated with 2024 laws in November. I don't know whether that has taken place or not, but so they update this as the most recent laws come into effect. And then here, of course, is obviously how to reach John Bartholomew, my district mate, or me. Okay. So those are just, oh, hold on. How did I do that again?
Elizabeth?
Yeah.
You mentioned that we're a Dillon's rule state, and I think you said that means we retain local control.
Yep.
That we being the legislature.
We being the state, the whole state.
Yeah, like the state, that we, as a municipality, we're not allowed to do anything that is not authorized by the state government under Dillon's rule. Right. Okay.
So here we are. We're at 9:24. I'm sorry to have given you such a long introduction, but here is the Vermont legislature. This is under the government tab. And let's say you wanted to, you click on here, it's all here. If you wanted to research, say, child care, well, I put yield in here. So it'll bring up all of the bills related to the yield. Here's this year's yield bill, which set the tax rate. You click on here, and it'll bring you the original, all of the whole record of the bill. So you can see the very first introduction to it, how it was originally written. You can see what it looked like when it came out the other side of the house.
I'm not seeing that.
Oh,
Is it just me?
oh man, you're right, because it opens a new tab every time.
Okay.
Sorry.
My
Oh, that was
system
so
at work does the same thing. I feel your pain.
okay. There we go. It's a pain in the neck. It's a very it's a hard website to navigate, but that's why we're here. Okay, so you are looking at H492. So let me back up. H492 is the number that was assigned to it originally. And Act 52 means the number that it was given when it was signed into law. So the original committee this was a committee bill. So it came from the committee and not a particular individual. It was started in the House Ways and Means Committee. And you could see the last recorded action, the governor signed it into law. Here you can see this is what it looked like in the very beginning when the committee first drafted it. Here's what it looked like as it passed out of the House and the Senate. And then here's what it looked like when it was signed by the governor, the exact text of what it was signed by the governor. This act summary, can you see all of this? Yes. Act summary is a really great way of looking to see what was in a bill. Here's the detailed status. You start at the very bottom, and you can see when it first had its first day of life, and you can see this is the official calendar. So this is the House's record of where it went through. You can see all the actions that were taken on it. So and this is the official record. But you also can see what the committee did to it. You can see all of the meetings on here, all of the times that it met in any committee. And if you click on here, if you were to click on Tuesday, February 7th, I'm not going to do it right now. Well, if you would see the agenda for that committee. You can click on work. Okay. Click on here and you can see the agenda for that day. And then you can also, and here's the research that was done on and presented to the committee on this subject area. But you can also, you can find the recording of this meeting and watch what people said about this area. So I'll show you that in just a minute. So let's say, oops, you can also, come on. So here's the committee activity. Here's the staff. This is the name of the lawyer who drafted it and shepherded it through the committee. You can also find, this is all of the stuff that we use. So you can find, this is the financial information is all on here. And I don't know it. And then here's how it ended up. Let me give you another. I had one that I thought was pretty good. It was S66.
Real quick, what's the difference between the official and unofficial thing it says at the top?
Well, the unofficial thing includes all of the markups. So they keep a record of what's been put in and what's been taken out. And so it has all of the red marks on it. So you can see.
So kind of like a track changes thing.
Yeah. Thanks. So let's see. Is that right? So you can look up here for, you can generally, let's see, what was it? Paid family leave. Okay. So let's say you want to look up something like paid family leave. I just entered it in this bar up here. You can also look for your legislator or committee up here. Come on now.
So you don't necessarily have to have the number of the bill
That's
to
right.
look it up. Okay.
That's
All right.
Let's see. S103. Okay, this is a bill that started in the Senate. The House bills start with H. Senate bills start with S. And you can see here, I think this is a pretty good one because it had a bunch of activity along the way. So you can see as this is the official track of it, but so it started way, way, way down here. You got to go down to the bottom. This is the first where it started in the Senate. This is the official record of what happened to it. But you can see committee activity. You can see all of the meetings that took place about it. And you can see that it started in Senate Economic Development, and then it came to our committee, General and Housing. And then we added something to it that caused it to go to the Education Committee. And from the Education Committee, it had to go back over to the Senate Education. Then it came back to our committee. Then it went to Senate Committee on Economic Development again. Here's a full list of all of the meetings that it went through. Here are, here's where you can find under documents. This is all of the auxiliary information about that particular bill. Witnesses, these are the witnesses who testified on this particular bill. And as you can see, there were many. This is the same, this holds the same for any bill. Then here's who the Legislative Council was. This was signed into law. But you can also, let's see, go back. Also on here, you can find down here. So here's the official calendar. Here's where you can see, right under there, here's where you can see the videos or the live feed of what's happening on the House floor. The same holds true for every, and you can see the archive of all of the videos. Also here. This is for committees. So for example, if I wanted to go to, I'm just using my own committee because it's easier for me. It doesn't really matter. Our counterpart in the Senate is Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. Here you can see the live stream, which is the archive of all of the meetings for anything that we discussed. Here's all the bills that, right up here is all of the bills that we had in our committee. You can search by bills that were passed out of the committee. There is a huge difference. You can see the 2023 session versus the 2024 session. These are the bills that we passed. These are the bills that started in another committee and came into our committee. And let's see. So what's a good one here? Here's the VHIP program, VHIP 2, as it was called. It died. It was a short form bill, and it was one sentence long, and it died. You can see that it was introduced, and then it didn't. I think because it was a short form, actually, it became attached to another bill. But here again, on that, going back over here. Okay. Again, you can look at all of the committee meetings, regardless of topic, on date, on bill. You can see what bills were in our committee. Other documents, there's like support documents for various subjects, but really important over here is reports and resources. These are the reports that were submitted to our committee. And let's see. There's also over here on the left-hand side, there's also sometimes auxiliary reports, additional information. If you ever want to come, and one of the things I wanted to say is that I would be glad to, like, if you have a pet issue that you want to follow, say it's second homes, and you know that there's a bill that has to do with second homes, you could follow it through the committee, and then you can see we usually on Friday before the following week, we usually get the agenda for next week. You can follow that. Everything that we have, you have. So you can follow what the agenda is going to be for the next week. And wait a minute. So for example, here's the agenda for Friday, May 10th. If there's a subject matter that you have personal experience or expertise in, you can either contact the committee assistant, their contact information is right there, or you can contact me, and I would be glad to help get you in to testify either remotely or in person. And again, you can watch all of the, if you're like that. I often at night when I get back to my room, I go and watch the live streams of other committees so that I can follow what I'm interested in. Let's see, what else?
So Elizabeth, you mentioned we could testify in person. What about written testimony?
Yep, you can also submit written testimony. Thank you.
Okay.
And that goes to the committee assistant. Or you
Okay.
can send it to the entire committee. But it will get, where is it? It'll get stored on the website. And it gets emailed directly to us. I think it's here. Maybe not. But it gets stored on the website for that particular issue. It also gets emailed to us. And then depending on the testimony, there may be a follow-up invitation to come and talk to the committee. or not.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we're back up here. Here are the bills and resolutions. Here's the committees. Here's where the statutes are. The House and the Senate. But I wanted to point out the Joint Fiscal Office. You can't see that. I got to hold on. So that's the tab up there at the top. And this is what it looks like. Wait, there's the Joint Fiscal Office, or JFO as we call it. And boy, there is so much on here. This is who we use for fiscal analysis. They don't necessarily do, well, here's, as you can see, they have everything on here. How the budget works, budgets by department, the capital bill, all of these different huge subject matters. They're all here. All of the information that we use, or that we use, is all here. These are the sometimes a bill asks for a study or a task force. I, for example, served on an short-term basic needs budget advisory committee last year, and so there's the information there. And here are all of the studies that the JFO has done. So this is actually a really useful site. Let's see. Then there's also, sorry not to be able to toggle back between these very easily. That's my shortcoming. But so we're going to go back up here. So now I'm going to go to, wait a minute, sorry. Reports and research. And here you can find the reports that we have been, that we've been using. So you can find legislative reports. These are all the reports for last year. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to know, often there's like some of the bills or some of the ways that the bills change are based on these reports. Sometimes the committee doesn't actually do anything with a report. Over here, there's a subject history. So let's put in yield. Here's the reports that were filed for the yield bill. Oh, committee meeting history, sorry. So there's that. Let's see. Let's say we wanted to go back up to the top. Okay. And again, almost every time you click on a link up here, it'll take you to a new tab, which can be really confusing, but it is what it is. It's just the way that, but anyway, you can look for a subject matter here. Let's say after school. Oh, that wasn't a good search. Let's say education. Of course, that's a whole committee, so there's going to be tons of. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to say. If you wanted to look up the history of something, what we do is we search for education, say. You can look, here's how you can find. I go back and like if I wanted to see whether there was something about second homeowners, you have to go through year by year, but you can go and see what was done the previous year. Whether there you can find whether there was a good idea that was never taken up, or whether there was a good idea that was taken up but it was killed. And then you know, if you're nerdy enough, you can figure out why. And you can do that for going back as far as you want. Oh, and I see it's 9:45. So, oh, I'm going to stop sharing. Is that enough of an overview?
I think
Emma,
that
can you, Jeffrey, do you think you could research something based on that?
I think so. I think I think most of what I would want to try and research, I don't know what I would want to research in this moment, but it sounds, I think I have an idea of how to start.
What about you, Tom? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I think if people bookmark this video and use it as a reference, that's what's going to be helpful. There's a lot of information in here. You can see that I didn't know they archived all the different committee videos, for example. But
Yep.
I think it's going to be useful when somebody finds a topic of interest and they want to start doing it. Just bookmark this video, and you can find the different things as it progresses through. So I think it'd be very helpful.
And there's also, I think I did show you, right, that you can, all of the videos for the House floor and the Senate floor are also archived on there. Did I show you that? Yeah, it's just further down on the main screen. Jeffrey, do you think that helped you be able to research something?
I think I have a more of a comfort level. I mean, I've researched some stuff before and I always use the bill number. So I'm glad that you don't have to have the bill number. So that was
Yeah,
helpful
no,
for me
that's
to know.
hard.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my main concern initially. But I think I could maneuver through it.
And
So, it's
it
good
can
to
be
know.
really
I'm
interesting
sorry.
to see. Sorry, it can be really interesting to like see how you know, a really good example is that homeless bill, the Homeless Bill of Rights bill from last year, how it was introduced, and you know, philosophically, we wanted to say some things. Can you see me? We wanted to
Yes.
make sure that some things got discussed, but there was little intention for it to go through all the way to the end of the process. The first draft doesn't look anything like the final draft. So sometimes those things are like philosophical statements, knowing that it's not going to get all the way through. Sometimes there's a bill that gets put up because we want there to be public awareness about it, but we know that bill, we want to start a conversation about it, but we know that bill is never going to go anywhere. Sometimes, and the list of sponsors versus the chief sponsor are often completely different. Like there might be people who really did work together on a bill, but there also might be people who just signed on to it. But it's all in there. It's all, again, this is the reference that we use, and it can be confusing, especially because of all of the tabs. But, and I'm glad to come back. And I mean, it's such a complicated website. I'm glad to come back and talk more in depth about any of the stuff.
Okay, let's see where this goes. And then we can, if we need to touch base again, then we can just do that. That would be great.
Okay.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for taking the time out to do this. We'll get it up one day next week on Windsor on Air. And like I said, we can use it as a reference tool as we get into the next legislative session. It's good to know that every legislator, every bill, every document that was used for information on every bill, a video of all those meetings, all of that stuff is there. That's a lot of stuff. So obviously it'll be complicated to actually find it all, but spending a little time on the site can be very beneficial.
And also the fact that you can give testimony. I think that's an important piece.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's
And
for anybody, right?
Exactly. Anybody. Yeah.
anybody. And I will say that personal testimony has a tremendously heavy weight inside of a committee. It does matter. So if you have any questions at all, or you have any concerns or needs, I'm here. That's what my job is. It's my favorite part of the job is helping people out. So just any questions, any comments, just contact me at my email address. And yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks very much for everybody. As any last words from anyone?
Thank you so much for letting me do this. I'm excited at the thought of people being able to like be fully engaged.
All right. Well, thanks for putting the time into it all. And we'll be in contact on this and a variety of other things looking ahead. So thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.